Hello, my fellow chatterers and book lovers, and anyone else who's popped in because you're curious about what this is or you have got a bit lost. Welcome everyone, and welcome everyone who is returning. Thank you so much. It feels like a long time since I have been filming anything, so I have no idea how this is going to go. And hello to anyone who is popping in for the first time. This is going to be absolute mad chatter all about stats, so if you're not really into book stats, you might want to click a different video, but if you enjoy a good stat, then you have come to the right place. So I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read in December and going through the sizes, range of genres, all of that good stuff. So grab a drink if you haven't got one already, and buckle in. I don't know what that was. I never say buckle in. That was weird. Okay. Anyway, on this channel, I don't edit my videos when they're long ones. So it's one shot, the camera keeps rolling, and we just go from there. So cheers, everyone. Clink, clink, clink. So for December, I had a very small TBR because I wanted to take part in the Reindeer Readathon. I wanted to be really relaxed about it and not put any pressure on myself. So I had in my Book Ladders and Bookworms game, which if you haven't seen and would like to see, I will link here. I chose 4 books for my December TBR from that. The first 2 were a category called We 3 Kings or We 3 Book Bags. The whole like gift thing, which was where my Mad Much Hare chose from 20 books. He chose 7 to put in a surprise bag and hid the others so I wouldn't know which ones were there. And I pulled out Beartown by Frederick Backman, and I also pulled out The Cat Who Saved Books by Suzuki Natsukawa. And then I had a lucky ladder, which was to read an author I loved, and I chose Midnight in Everwood by Maria Kuznia because I really wanted to read this over the Christmas period because it's one I read a couple of years ago and it's really Christmassy and it's really fun and it's a reread and I wanted to read it. And then for Worrying Worm, I had to read a book that was mainly this colour, and I pulled out a sort of sea green, and perfectly The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea was that sea green colour, which is by Axie O. So that worked beautifully. So those were all the books I pulled out for the December TBR. I read Beartown. I read The Cat Who Saved Books. I read The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. But sadly, I did not read Midnight in Everwood. This was such a shame because I was really hyped about reading it. But like the first part of December, I felt like I was reading a lot. And then I read a big epic book, which I really enjoyed. It was really great to read sort of over the Christmas period, which is The Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne. And then I felt a little bit sort of like whew, after this book. So I was definitely all up for picking up Midnight in Everwood as kind of a settling down, but then just Christmassiness just took on, and I was either so exhausted I wasn't really able to read, or there was just a lot going on and a lot of socializing, so I ended up never really picking up Midnight in Everwood, which was a shame. So there we go. It didn't get read, which is sad, but I will. It's on my list again for next year, and I feel it'll happen. It will happen next year. But I don't feel, now that Christmas is over, I don't want to read it. I think this is also because it wasn't going to be helping me with my Read What You Own challenge because it's a reread, but it wasn't a reread I planned, and it's not really helping with any series, so it wasn't helping tick off my goals. And I think after Christmas I suddenly really wanted to be more fixated on doing those things. And actually no, that's a lie. I just needed to read. I just read very chilled out books. So yeah, this one didn't get read, and I do feel sad about that. But there we go. That's it. It's not at a time, but it will have a time again, and it will be fine. I do feel really sad about it, which seems silly. Anyway, stop waffling. So the other books I read were all kind of for the Reindeer Readathon, which I will go through now because I've lost the page. Here we are. So I've already mentioned Beartown. So this was for the prompt Vixen. And I also used it for the Christmas tree prompt, which was to read a book where you are branching out. So I don't usually read adult contemporary, and Beartown was a book I had been putting off for a while, because I felt I was going to get quite emotional about it and probably feel quite angry because of the subject matter. So it was its time. It was its time. And for Vixen, you got 20 points, and you also got 20 points for Christmas tree bonus. So I got 40 points by reading Beartown. So that felt good. The Cat Who Saved Books was my pick for, I've not written it down, Dancer, which was a book with 5 or more words. But I didn't finish it. Despite it being a teeny tiny book, I did not finish it before the end of the month. It did trickle into January a bit, so I did not get the points for this one, but I did read the book. I'm counting it as read for December. The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea I read for Comet, which was to read a book that starts with the same star sign letter as you. So I'm a Gemini, so girl worked for that, and that gave me 20 points. It's also Christmas Elf, to read a book that has been on your shelf, Elf on the Shelf, we like it, for a long time. And this I got in the Fairy Loot book box in March 2022, and I was very, very keen to read it. But it's one of those books where I really wanted to sit and enjoy it properly, and it was on a few TBRs, but it ended up never being picked up and never getting read. But it was its time. It was finally its time, and I read it. So whoop whoop, all done. As you can see, I've already put Hunger of the Gods in there, and this was for Blitzen, which was also worth 20 points. And this was to read a book with a set number of pages. I rolled a dice, I got 5, so I got 500 plus pages to read, and Hunger of the Gods is 650, so that worked perfectly. And Christmas Star is to read a book over 500 pages, so winner. And you get 25 points for Christmas Star. So Hunger of the Gods was worth 45, and really it should be, because this was a big chunky book. My next plan to get maximum points was to read the Rudolph prompt, which would have been 20 points, and that was to read like a older book or to read a book published this year. And my pick for this one was the Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England by Brandon Sanderson. Yet to read A Secret Project. Very excited about the Secret Projects. Really looking forward to sitting and enjoying the Secret Projects. Didn't read this one either. This one did not happen either. Like I said, same reasons as Midnight and Neverwood. Did really well at the beginning of the month, and then Christmassy socialising, exhaustion took over, and the reading dropped off. It will be its time soon. I was hoping that I might even start a little bit. I haven't picked it up yet. It will be its time soon. It's still on my radar. It's still there hovering, but we're not quite there yet. So that is not going on the shelf. So then I have 2 books here, and then I went rogue. So these books next are for Donna, which was to read a book with more than one animal on the cover. And I have here The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse by Charlie Macquarie, which has definitely more than one animal on the cover. We have a fox, we have a mole, and we have a horse. But I also read the animated book as well, which is the same story, but it was made for an animated TV show, and this is the book of that series. These are both absolutely beautiful books, but I put them together for the same prompt. So I did get the Donna points, which is, she says, Donna was 15 points. So there we go. I got 15 points for these ones. I'll wiggle up there to squidge in. And then the final book that I did read all of in December and get points from was A Storm of Sisters. I had 3 middle grade books that I planned to read. I only managed to read this one, unfortunately, but I did really enjoy this one. So this is Storm of Sisters by Michelle Harrison, and I read this for Prancer, which gave me 10 points. So it wasn't a big hitter, but I was very keen to read this one. I really wanted to read it in the wintry setting, and it also ticks off a series and a book I already own. So it helped me with personal goals, and so the fact I could fit it onto here as well worked brilliantly. The final book I have doesn't fit any of the prompts for the Reindeer Readathon, and that is the Heartstopper Yearbook by Alice Oseman, which was very joyous to read. And that was not on my plans at all, that was just, I fancy reading this book, so I am. Alright, I believe that's otherwise known as a mood read. Okay, so there we go. These are my 8 books that I have here, and I will now go into stats after a swig of tea. It's good. It's good tea. It's very drinkable as well. It's a good temperature. So I could just gulp it down. Okay. So, I read 3 adult books, which is Beartown, The Cat Who Saved Books, and The Hunger of the Gods. I read 3 YA books, which is The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. I've put The Boy, the Mole, the Horse and the Fox as a YA, not the animated one, but the original one. Just because it feels more sort of soul searchy in the text. I think absolutely you can read it as a middle grade reader, you can read it as an adult reader, but I think the YA age range fits it the best, so that's where I've popped it. And the Heartstopper Yearbook is YA. Oh dear, this is so, I've gone all fuzzy. It's not done videos for a while and I've just gone all fuzzy. Right, focus. Middle grade books. Read 2 of them, which is A Storm of Sisters and the animated story of The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse. Because of the animated story, it kind of flowed more as a story, so I felt that fitted the middle grade vibe rather than the sort of like moments of reflection, which I felt fitted the YA vibe a bit more. Okay, in terms of new and rereads, these are all new reads to me. There is 0 rereads on here. I have read 5 novels: Beartown, The Cat Who Saved Books, The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea, The Hunger of the Gods, and The Storm of Sisters. 1 graphic novel, which is the Heartstopper Yearbook, and 2 illustrated books, which are the 2 copies of The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. Okay, all of these books are my books. All of them are, and I borrowed 0 and I got 0 out of the library. So in terms of series, I've got 3 to talk about. Ooh. Ooh, 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 we go. So first of all, I have finished a series. I have finished the Widdershin Sisters series, the Pinch of Magic series by Michelle Harrison, which is middle grade fantasy. So delighted to have finished this one. I am also now up to date with the Bloodsworn saga. There are 2 published so far, and I have now read the 2nd one in that series and are eagerly anticipating the 3rd. But I also did start a series, which is Beartown. Originally when I picked it up, I was like, I really want to read this book, I'm quite interested. By the time I finished it, I was like, and now I need the rest. So 2 more books to read in the Beartown series. So that is a series I have added to my ongoing list of series. Some people would definitely count Heartstopper. It is a series of books. Personally, I'm not counting Heartstopper in my series, just because basically as soon as I haul a Heartstopper book, I read it that day and it's done. So like I don't need to track my reading of the Heartstopper series because I just consume it instantly. It's not even worth popping on the radar. I hauled this, I read it that day, done. It's just so easy to read. It's a graphic novel and they're so readable. I link all of my book sizes to animals because that vision works for me. So I have read 3 ant-sized books. So an ant is anything that is 150 pages or less. I don't know how many pages are in these, but just in terms of like words to pictures ratio, Heartstopper is a graphic novel, so we have full page spreads with very little writing on them. There is a lot of illustrations on these, so I very much count it as an ant. It's definitely always a mouse, but in the yearbook there was even kind of less, because it's more an appreciation of the art and enjoyment of the characters rather than like a graphic novel story. The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse, again, we have pages with like a little quote or a thought, because you can dip in and out of it. So again, not a whole lot of text on there, so I'm classing it as an ant. And the same with the animated book version as well. I then have a mouse. So a mouse is 151 pages to 300 pages, and The Cat Who Saved Books falls under that category. I have two goats, which is 301 to 400 pages. So we have The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea and Storm of Sisters. Beartown is cow size, so I have one cow size, which is 401 to 500 pages. And The Hunger of the Gods is elephant size, which is 501 to 700 pages. So a nice range of animals we have here. My next stat is the genres. So I have two contemporary, which is Beartown and the Heartstopper yearbook. I have 4 fantasy, which are these 4: The Hunger of the Gods, Storm of Sisters, The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea and The Cat Who Saved Books. I then have 2 magical realism. I have classed The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse as magical realism because we've got talking animals. It's a nice story, it's set in a clear kind of modern world, there's no further aspects of fantasy in it, but animals don't talk, so for me it's magical realism. 2 books are by global majority authors, 6 are by white Eurocentric authors. So I have The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea and The Cat Who Saved Books. In terms of my goals, I would like half of what I read to be global majority, so that is a quarter. So not where I want to be, but we will take it because I don't have another choice. In terms of diversity, although I haven't really got any that's specifically about mental health, there are definitely 4 books that are about healing, and that is definitely like a theme within the story. So we have both the copies of The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse. It's all very much about being kind to yourself. So definitely that feels like a form of healing in there. We also have Beartown and The Cat Who Saved Books. Nothing really goes specifically into mental health, but there is definitely characters suffering from grief and trauma, and they definitely need to be healing sort of within themselves, within things that have changed, and sort of trying to like work out how they move forward in life. I have 2 books with LGBTQ+ characters as the main character. So Heartstopper, obviously, it's full of wonderful queer characters, but also in Beartown there are lots of different viewpoints that you are given and protagonists that you follow, and one of those is gay. I then have 2 books written by Asian authors depicting Asian cultures or set in those places. So The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea uses Korean folklore and axioms of Korean heritage, and The Cat Who Saved Books is by a Japanese author, Sasuke Natsukawa, and it is set in Japan and has been translated by Louise Heel Kawai. So no disability representation or neurodivergent representation this month. So we are now done with all the stats, and we are on to what is my least favourite. And what is my favourite? And this was really, really tricky because I did have a really nice reading month, even though I kind of felt like it was a month of two halves. There was like one where I felt very much like I was hitting the pace. And then the second half of the month was a little bit all over the place, and I was just kind of reading what I felt like. And it was a lot more kind of like chilled out and picky uppy putty downy reading. And I have chosen, I've sat here long and hard and thought about it, but I have chosen my least favourite. But it is my least favourite out of the books. It's not a bad book and I did enjoy reading it. But my least favourite was The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. Just because I didn't quite get the emotional connection with the characters that I got in other stories. And I think that is a really big thing for me in my reading. I really like to have an emotional connection. I like to really feel strongly about the characters in the book. But I really enjoyed the atmosphere in this story. It was very beautiful. It was very folktale-y. I really enjoyed exploring the different aspects of the storytelling. It was a lot of fun, and there were certain things in here that I did really enjoy. But for me, kind of like, I didn't get that protectiveness or friendship or just like inner knowledge of the protagonist and some of the other main characters. It's very much the side characters that I enjoyed more. So for me, that was where it didn't work for me as much as other books this month did. Oh, and my favourite was really hard. It was really, really hard to pull down because obviously, like, I had a brilliant time with the cozy vibes and the lovely vibes and the caring vibes. The three books that stood out for me stood out for very different reasons. So it was very much trying to choose between these three, all very, very different stories. So I have Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne, where I really enjoyed the epicness of it. I really enjoyed seeing characters' arcs. I really enjoyed being immersed in this world again and just going on this epic adventure. And there were so many moments in here that I was just like, what? Whoa! And so many fun moments in here of everything starting to pull together, and you really see the plots and threads of the story like really being pulled tighter, and it's really exciting. So I loved that one for that. I had a very big kind of emotional reaction to Beartown, which I loved. I was really drawn in by the characters. I felt really close to a lot of the characters in here. I felt very hurt by the actions of other characters and angry by certain things. I thought it explored the issue in the book really, really well. You really got a sense of place in here. You really understood what was driving these characters. You got a load of different range of opinions in here, and you could see different things. And sometimes, even though you definitely did not agree with one of the characters' opinions, you could see where they were coming from. So this was a really fascinating book and a really brilliant book, especially if you're a character reader. And I felt a lot. It moved me, and I felt a lot of different ways about it. So I thought that was brilliant. And equally, The Cat Who Saved Books, there's just something about this story that was just really beautiful and just pulled you in. And having sat and pondered, I have chosen The Cat Who Saved Books as my favourite of the month, and I will go into why that was. So it's definitely a story that I think you think about after you've finished reading it. So during the read of it, I really enjoyed it. There was something very endearing about the protagonist, the talking cat, other characters that you meet in here, seeing the character arc of our protagonist and sort of the journey that he goes on, and obviously the love of books in here. And as you can see, I was tabbing this one. I'm not a book tabber, but I wanted to tab because there were so many beautiful moments in here that I really wanted to remember, and certain phrases and ideas that I really wanted to think about. I also love the way this book is crafted. It has that kind of fairy tale feel to it, where there are three different things in this book. There are three different events. There are three different labyrinths, if you will. There is a guide, there is a coming of age story, there is a finding your own path. So it had that really classic fairy tale feel to it, which I really loved, because the setting was not a fairy tale. Like, you think fairy tale, you think woods. Well, I do anyway. So it was a very different kind of setting, but it very much had that kind of setup and plot. And the way this was done and the way it kind of came together, I really enjoyed it. I really appreciated it. And I have sat on this and keep coming back to it and keep thinking about it. And I look forward to reading it again, knowing where it's going. And I'm sure it's one of those books where you'll like pick out lots of different things the more times you read it. But also, like, it's just amazing that that happens, and it's just such a small book. So I think it manages to pull everything together like really concisely. And it's that kind of the wovenness of the story, along with the emotional characters, along with the coziness of the books, like all of those things combined, pulled it to my most favourite book of December. So there we go. There's all my December stats. Oh, and just in case you were interested, I totally forgot to round up all of my Reindeer Readathon points. So sadly, Team Snowflake did not win, but for Team Snowflake, I managed to accumulate 130 points. So I feel very proud of myself. I felt I put like a good innings. I knew I wasn't going to try and read everything, which I tried previously and it didn't work. I knew I wasn't going to try, so I was aiming for those heavy hitting points ones. So I do feel that that worked really well. Let me know what you have been reading throughout December, what your favourite book of December was. I have a lot of booktube to catch up on. I've got so many best of videos, goals for 2024, banned book challenges, bootcamp readathon things. I've got so much content that I'm really excited to watch. Just need to sit down and do it, as well as sit down to film. But everything is starting to like settle back into a routine now. So I'm hoping I can be more on it with getting the videos out twice a week, but we'll see how it goes. There is no pressure. But thank you so much for popping in. If you have got to the end of this video, then please do a little reindeer for the Reindeer Readathon emoji. And I think that's all I have to say. I just need to finish signing off, really. So I hope you're reading something fun. No pressure to chat in the comments, but if you want to, I always really enjoy it, even if it takes me a while to get back to the comments because of life. I do really appreciate them, and it just always makes me smile to see those comments in there. So thank you so much, everybody. Happy reading, everyone.